Topping our lineup this Friday, there's a shortage of affordable homes across the country. We're looking into the push to get more starter homes built. Nearly half of all professional artists are women, but you wouldn't realize that by visiting museums nationwide, how that could be changing. And getting to doctor's appointments can be a struggle for millions of people. A new service is expanding to change that, how hospitals could use it to schedule you a ride.
Thank you, Annie. Amanda Starantino here for the Now Indy Right Now. We want to get straight over to your forecast and flooding potential for you. Storm Team 6's Kyle Mounts is here for what you need to know. And you can see in our live drive there, a lot of rain out on the roads, Kyle. Yeah, the rain continuing to fall and some hydroplaning issues certainly going to be there through the evening drive tonight. Many areas have already picked up over 1, in some cases over 2 inches of rain, like parts of Hendricks County. Also, as we look around Bedford, Seymour, we're looking at a little over 2 inches of rainfall. It's been a little lighter to the north. Now, the good news for some southern areas, we're starting to see some breaks in the rain, but still some of that moderate rainfall moving through the Spencer area right now along I-70. It's pretty wet here west of the city, and even as we go into downtown, some light to moderate rainfall and more moderate rain falling from Shelbyville between there and Anderson. Here's a look at TrueCast, and as we go through this evening, we'll see that axis of heaviest rain lifting to the north, make it a little bit of a break here during the overnight, but then as we go into tomorrow morning, we'll see more of that rain moving right back in. The bright spot are the temperatures. They are mild in the 50s for us. They will stay that way as we go through the next several hours. With those temperatures in the 50s, rain will continue. Amanda? Thank you, Kyle. Trash and junk are piling up at a mobile home park on the southwest side of Indianapolis. This mess is at the I-70 mobile home park where residents have been forced to move out. The health department tells RTV6 it has issued a notice of violation to address the trash problem there. A reinspection is scheduled for Tuesday. We have been following that situation at the mobile home park since August after residents received a letter saying they and their mobile homes had to be off the property in a week. After RTV6 got involved, the Attorney General wound up filing a lawsuit which gave those residents extra time and resources to move. And the rain means that this year you are getting extra time to enjoy the Circle of Lights in downtown Indianapolis. The display was scheduled to come down this weekend, but downtown Indy says that's been delayed until next Saturday, the 18th, because of rain in the forecast. On RTV6, we love to round out the week with some good news, and this is one of those stories that never gets old. A little boy named Alejandro was hanging out with his 4th grade class in the library at Promise Road Elementary School in Noblesville when he got a big surprise. The boy's dad is in the Army. He just got back into town, and he got to surprise his son. The other students in his class had to help find Alejandro, but they eventually did. The Trump administration gave details today on new sanctions on Iran. They're in response to Iran's missile strikes this week on U.S. bases in Iraq. The sanctions target 8 senior Iranian leaders, also Iran's manufacturing, mining, and textile industries. The House will start the process of sending the articles of impeachment to the Senate next week. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi instructing the Judiciary Committee chair to bring a resolution to the floor to send the articles over. And Marianne Williamson suspended her campaign for president today. In a message to her supporters, she said she ran to help forge another direction for our country and to discuss things she felt needed to be discussed that otherwise were not. We're diving into that major recall tied to the defective and deadly Takata airbags because it may be confusing. 10 million inflators are being recalled that were used by 14 different auto companies. This is part of the original recall that started in 2015. But what's different is some of the cars in this latest recall already had their airbags replaced.
The older the inflator, the more dangerous it was. And so when there weren't enough parts available right as the initial recall took place, one of the stopgap measures that was taken was to use basically very similar airbags as the ones with problems, but that were newer.
So while some may think their first airbag replacement is safe, it's not. Some still contain a dangerous chemical. It needs to be replaced with an inflator without that chemical. If there is anything car owners can take away from this, it's how manufacturers handle the recall.
Did you receive a notice, and did they get it done right away? Did they contact you? Maybe some instances they're coming out to people's houses and fixing them. Or on the other hand, do you have a vehicle and a manufacturer who's choosing to delay this process as long as possible, keep saying they don't have parts, really pushes you off?
The Center for Auto Safety says GM is still fighting to not replace some 6 million airbags. Mercedes has only replaced about a third of its impacted cars. Most other car companies are well over the 50% mark. Honda had the most cars impacted, and they were the ones that ended up making some house calls. There are some 25 million airbags that still need to be replaced. More to get to in our lineup. We know how expensive housing has gotten nationwide, and now some relief could be coming. We're looking into efforts to get more starter homes built.
At Ashley Home Store, this is home.
This is the Now Indy on RTV6. A deadly hit-and-run crash leaves a man dead on the south side of Indianapolis. And police say they now know the type of vehicle that fled the scene. This happened around 7:15 last night on State Road 135 near Thompson Road. Police found a man alongside of the road, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers believe the man was hit by an SUV that was traveling northbound on 135. Here is a picture of a vehicle that is similar to what police are looking for. They believe the suspect is driving a 2003 to 2008 model Honda Pilot. The SUV should have front-end damage near the grille and windshield. If you think you have information, you can leave an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers. That number is 317-262-TIPS. Annie.
Good news for people looking to buy their first home. Builders are starting to create more starter homes. These are houses that are less than 2,400 square feet and are priced lower. Fewer entry-level homes were built after the recession about 8 years ago. But now builders are seeing that there's a market again.
These are often the most popular homes. These are often the homes that sell the fastest. We find homes at lower price points are experiencing the most competition. This is the area of the market that actually appreciated the most over the past 3 years because we have so many first-time home buyers.
It's not just younger generations buying these homes. Real estate experts say as all types of costs go up, older generations are also looking for affordable options.
This spot in the middle, making it more possible to build, smaller homes, starter homes, is going to mean a great deal for housing's health into the future.
However, starter homes are beginning to cost more. Zillow says in 2009, the median price for an entry-level home was nearly $90,000. Today, that number is closer to $126,000. Checking the Now news feed, a new concern about a deadly fungus. It's called Candida auris. Researchers say it is now drug resistant. It's mostly seen in healthcare facilities. Between 30 to 60% of people who contract an infection from the fungus end up dying. A high school intern has made a historic discovery. The teen working at NASA identified a new planet. It's about 7 times bigger than Earth. However, experts do say it's likely unlivable. A Vermont lawmaker has introduced a bill to ban anyone under 21 from using a cell phone. The reason? People in that age group aren't mature enough to smoke or have a gun, so they shouldn't have a phone either. The lawmaker says he only proposed the bill in order to make a point about gun ownership. All right, ahead in our lineup, nearly half of all professional artists are women. But you wouldn't realize that by visiting museums nationwide. How that could be changing.
Ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
One artist thought he would never create masterpieces again after he lost the ability to use his hands. But Thomas Hoppe shows us how he has adapted to continue doing what he loves.
Art never truly leaves an artist.
My name is Alex Biaggi, and I've been drawing since I was about 6 years old.
39-year-old Alex Biaggi has never stopped creating.
For me, art is an escape. I get to focus on the painting and not what's going on around me.
Painting is his passion. Music, his love.
I played piano every day from age 6 to 24 before I lost my hands.
16 years ago, all of that was put on hold when Alex lost the ability to use his hands.
I was hit with a rare autoimmune neuromuscular disease called CIDP. It stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy.
Alex lost movement in his hands, and it took 4 years for doctors to figure out a diagnosis. But after they confirmed it was CIDP, he gave up on art.
Not being able to paint or draw with my hands was very depressing for me. I didn't think I could do it. I never thought I would find a way to paint again.
He endured 8 surgeries and also went to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Alex lost the ability to play the piano, but still creates music.
Not being able to play the piano or guitar is torture for me every day. But being able to produce electronically, it has been a big part of my life.
And 4 years ago, he found his passion for painting again.
When my mom had received a mouth and foot painter's calendar and postcards in the mail, I wanted to give it a try and have been painting with my mouth ever since. A lot of people are inspired. Painting for me gives me a sense of purpose. I can just focus on what I'm working on and not about my body or the painting.
His mouth paintings are known all over the country. His strength, known all over the world.
Without art, my life would be completely different.
I'm Thomas Hoppo reporting.
Have any unwanted holiday gifts that you will probably never use? You may be able to rewrap them and give them to someone else. Consumer reporter John Matarese shows when it's okay and when it's not a good idea, so you don't waste your money.
The hottest trend in gift giving these days, it's regifting. Taking a holiday gift someone gave you, rewrapping it, and handing it to someone else. It can be fine as long as you know the rules. Regifting is so hot that there's now a National Regifting Day. It was December 19th, 2019, if you're tracking. And Donald Trump Jr. last year claimed that even his dad once regifted something back to him. But Daily Finance says you need to be careful. You don't want to get caught regifting, a trend first named back on the TV show Seinfeld.
He recycled this gift. He's a regifter.
Daily Finance's rules for regifting: the item must be unopened, no personal names, initials, or monograms, a red flag of a hand-me-down, and wrap it in fresh paper so it looks as though you bought it. And from the Doesn't That Stink file, avoiding what Daily Finance calls the Seinfeld scenario. That's when you accidentally give it back to the person who gave it to you, or regift it to someone in the same social circle so they find out. Doesn't that stink? It's best to give it to someone on the other side of your family or someone who doesn't know the original gifter. Bottom line, there's nothing wrong with regifting as long as you're careful so you don't waste your money. Working for you, I'm John Matarese for RTV6.
Thank you, John. As we look at live drive for you this evening on 465, needing the windshield wipers, and we've got some steady rainfall that's going to continue to fall and be an issue here really over about the next 24 hours. Temperature-wise, that's something that's comfortable. We've got those numbers in the middle 50s in downtown, 57 for you in Bloomington, and 56 degrees right now in Lafayette. Satellite radar shows that rain, but you also notice it's starting to lift a little more to the north. So areas that haven't had a whole lot of rain, like Lafayette and Kokomo, your number is coming up here. We're going to see more rain moving into your neighborhoods. And as we look at the bigger picture, you can see there's more rain off to the west, and we may even see a few rumbles of thunder moving our way as we get into tomorrow morning. There's also a wintry sign, but that is expected to stay to the northwest of central Indiana. So here's TrueCast by tomorrow morning. We've got very warm temperatures. Some spots will be in the 60s as we start off the day, but we will have that rain around and possibly some of those thunderstorms here. We go into the second half of the day. May see a little break to the north, but we're still dealing with that rain. You're going to need the rain gear, and it's going to be windy with those temperatures into the 50s. The wet weather finally starting to move out of here as we get into tomorrow night following one more wave, but you start to see that colder air spilling in Lafayette by 11 o'clock tomorrow night in the middle 30s. Additional rainfall, about 1 to 3 inches coming our way. You combine that with gusty winds tomorrow that could be in excess of 40 miles per hour, and we do have a high threat of some power outages across the area. All the saturated soil factor in those winds and could take those trees down a little bit easier. We'll dry it out here as we go into the second half of the weekend, but we mentioned it will be cooler with highs right around 40 degrees. Next few days of your forecast, temperatures rebounding. We're back in the 50s with rain chances by Tuesday. Annie?
Turning to the Now News feed, the FDA recalling more heartburn medications. They all have the compound known as NDMA. That's considered to be a potential carcinogen. Some of the meds involved are generic versions of Zantac. Well, did you buy infant Tylenol in the past 5 years? If so, you could cash in on a class action settlement. You can file a claim to get $2 a bottle for up to 7 bottles if you bought the product from October 2014 through this past Monday. And you don't need the receipt, you just have to fill out the claim form. Construction on a private border wall in Texas can move forward. The National Butterfly Center and the government had argued the wall would cause several problems, including violating a treaty with Mexico. A judge said there wasn't enough evidence to support those claims, so work on the wall can restart. Virtual reality could be the latest tool to help people battle addictions. Doctors say patients recovering from substance abuse can use VR to immerse themselves in a realistic environment to relax during a detox period. VR can also provide a safe way to deal with stress during exposure therapy. And doctors say one way this can be done is by placing alcohol use disorder patients in a virtual bar. Well, in the wake of the Me Too movement and the renewed fight for equal pay, there was a new battlefield in the fight for gender equality. Museums. Nearly half of all professional artists in the U.S. are women, but you wouldn't know that from looking at museum collections. Maya Rodriguez shows us the effort to make sure more women artists get the chance to shine in spaces that have long been occupied by men.
For 95-year-old Betty Cook,
you're getting the detail.
Her lifelong passion of turning metal into wearable works of art began in the 1940s.
I was always interested in making things, whether it's metal or clay or whatever. And I kind of took to this, and I had a good feel for the simplicity of it.
A simplicity celebrated not just at her Baltimore store, but also at the Baltimore Museum of Art.
They really stand out. They're really sculptural. They're really dimensional. They move on the body.
Betty's works are just one part of 2020 Vision, a pledge by the museum in 2020 to only purchase art by female artists.
Of course, it was duly noted that this is the centennial of white women receiving the vote in the United States. So we thought, well, this would be a great moment to analyze our collection, begin to understand some of our historical deficits.
How big are those gender deficits? A study last year looked at 18 major museums in the U.S. and found that 85% of the artists in their collections were white and 87% were men. At the Baltimore Museum of Art, it's even more lopsided.
So we have roughly 4%. 4% of our collection is works by women.
Now, with 21 of their 23 curators being women, the Baltimore Museum of Art plans to spend at least $2.5 million this year acquiring pieces by female artists. Pieces like Betty's.
So this is a big movement for the women?
In Baltimore.
I think it's pretty great.
I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
Maya, thank you. Well, the Baltimore Museum of Art says it hopes other museums will follow their lead. A recent study found that smaller museums seem to be doing better than larger ones when it comes to buying works by female artists. Larger museums say they often face more than financial constraints. Another is what art-wealthy donors choose to offer the museums. And finally, in our lineup, getting to doctor's appointments can be a struggle for millions of people. A new service is expanding to change that. Ahead on the Now, how hospitals could use it to schedule you a ride.